Ronon Dex's past is one of the more tragic parts of Atlantis. A man who fought for the survival of his people, but in the end it wasn't enough. He lost the woman he loved, and just to pour salt on a fresh wound, he wasn't even granted the mercy of death to be with her after he was cold. He was turned into a runner, a person implanted with a tracking device whom the Wraith hunted for either sport or training. The life of a runner is a lonely one, as runners can and have inadvertently led Wraith to human settlements, which usually ends in the culling of said settlements. For almost 7 years, he was on the run and unable to form any long-term human connection, at least until he met the Atlantis expedition, which finally gave him the hope he could go home as they were able to remove the device, only to find the Wraith had left the world in ruins, leading him to believe he was the last of the Satedans. Truly a tragic character, having to go through some of the worst experiences one can go through, but I find I have to ask, why? Not why was he made a runner, Ronon's skills speak for themselves in that matter, but why annihilate Sateda at all? And to be clear, this wasn't a normal Wraith culling. While a Wraith culling does devastate a human population, the idea is to leave enough survivors to rebuild so they can be culled later. But with Sateda, its population was truly annihilated, with only around 300 survivors. This leads me to ask, why was Sateda annihilated? This video started out as a request to do some lore in the Satedans, but sadly there's just not a lot on them. Atlantis didn't have any RPGs like SG-1 does, and while they were part of the Atlantis books, there wasn't much about them to really justify the section breakups I normally do. So for this video, I will give a general overview of what we do know about them and see if we can find any clues to why the Wraith nearly wiped them out. Starting off, we know the Wraith attacked them in 1998. However, the Satedans knew some kind of attack was coming, as they had off-world activities, having seen examples of Wraith callings on other worlds, and had taken some military operations against the Wraith to deter them from attacking Sateda.
Our only hope is to show them that we're not worth the effort. To go feed on some other planet that won't fight back as hard as we will.
It would be logical then to assume that some of the weapons and armor we saw them have were designed to fight the Wraith. For example, their rifles seem to be able to take down a Wraith much faster than a P-90, and their armor was designed to dissipate energy blast. Though I should note that these examples of tech being made to fight the Wraith are just one idea. Another possibility would be that the Satedans come from a warrior culture, with the use of melee weapons being prevalent among their military. They also have a strict code of honor, part of which allows for conflicts to be resolved with hand-to-hand combat. It's possible they developed the guns independently of the Wraith threat, or it could be a combination of both these factors. This would explain why their armor would be designed to take on energy blasts if they themselves don't have energy weapons. Either way, the incident that sealed the Satedans' fate was when 2 Wraith scout ships emerged from the Stargate that they shot down. Whether or not the Wraith knew about Sateda before, I can't say. Sateda had not been called for 200 years prior to this event, but now Sateda had just painted a target on its back. The Satedan chieftain had made a speech claiming that Sateda will not bow to invaders. Despite the speech, some plans have been made to try and evacuate some people through the gate. Sadly, this plan would not come to fruition as the Wraith launched their attack. The Satedan planetary forces and most of its citizens fought for days against the Wraith. However, despite their best efforts, it was a roughly 1940s technological era civilization against one that had mastered spaceflight and controlled the whole galaxy. What also did not help the situation was the actions of Commander Kell. He was in command of several infantry divisions, and when the Wraith attacked, he ordered thousands to their death to save his own life. Maybe as a result of his actions, or maybe the Satedans were simply overwhelmed, the end was the same. Sateda fell to the Wraith, with its population either being killed, culled, in Ronon's case made a runner, and we know of a few who were off-planet at the time and made into Wraith worshippers. All that being said, there is hope for the Satedans. As I said earlier, there were survivors. around 300 who had taken shelter in bunkers west of their capital city. After the Wraith left, the survivors also left, becoming scattered on various planets in the Pegasus galaxy, such as Belkin and Mineria. That's sadly where their story ends in the show, but the Atlantis books did finish their story. First, in the book Allegiance, the expedition repaired the Stargate on Sateda, which was reportedly destroyed when the Wraith returned Ronon to the planet to hunt him. And later, in 2009, a few Satedans attempted to resettle on the planet, though this was mainly due to a lack of options. For example, the planet Mineria, which had several Satedans living on it, had been wiped out by the Wraith Queen Death. However, many of these Satedans were not warriors and didn't have the skills to survive on a less technologically advanced planet. What also didn't help was the Genii had come to claim some technology. In the end, the expedition was able to get the Genii to stand down, though I should note the expedition did this because Ronon told them there was Lantean tech in a museum on Sateda. Said tech included a near-depleted ZPM and a city ship hyperdrive induction array control crystal. Following the peace treaty between the Tauri and the Wraith, Sateda was one of the planets ceded to the Tauri. This meant the Satedans could truly begin rebuilding their world. They asked Ronon if he would be willing to be part of the new government, which he declined.
I'm not good at writing.
But a Lieutenant Colonel Melissa Hawken, a character from the books, offered to help them in building an air force. She even considered retiring to the planet when her tour of duty was over. The last event I could find on them was when a Veneer spaceship crashed on the planet when they tried to kidnap Weir. Still, there is hope for them in the future. But we come back to the question I asked at the start. Why were the Satedans annihilated? I know we didn't get a lot of info, but I think we got enough to come to a conclusion. The Satedans were targeted because they were becoming a threat. They had off-world operations, had conducted military strikes on the Wraith, and their technology had gotten to the point it could fight the Wraiths. Now you might say, wait, they're not that advanced. They only had 1940s technology, and the Wraith had spaceships. How could they pose a threat? Well, see, when people think of advanced technology, they usually think of spaceships with hyperdrives, laser guns, or, well, Stargates. But the truth is that the technology level of around 1940s Earth is advanced given all of human history. And it's around that level of technology that a species can really begin to affect things on a global stage. There's a reason warfare got more intense around that time. Heck, you could even say it started even sooner, around the 1910s level of technology. Heck, even Stargate Origins taps into this idea. The Ghoul Set tries to make an alliance with the Nazis, and later admits the humans from Earth could pose a threat one day to the Empire given their level of technology. And yes, I also can't believe I just cited Origins. But before you discard that, let's consider this. Earth was around 60 years more advanced than the Satedans were around the start of SG-1, and in less than 10 years, they were able to help in the collapse of a galaxy-spanning empire. Now granted, it took them acquiring more advanced technology, powerful allies, a few power vacuums, a galaxy-ending event that involved an army of robot bugs, and a whole lot of luck. But they still managed to do it, and the Wraith, more than any other faction in Stargate, know the danger an underdog can be. They were an underdog at the start of their war with the Lanteans, and only won through gaining more advanced technology and a winning strategy. So they know the danger posed by a group that is allowed to advance too far, even if it's just 1940s level of tech. Still though, why annihilate them? Why not just call them as usual? Well, there's a couple reasons. First, the purpose of callings is to gather humans for the Wraith to feed on, and at this time, most of the Wraith were still in hibernation. So even if they culled the planet, there's only so much room on Wraith ships to hold them. Here's a good analogy. Imagine buying too much food at the store, and you can't fit it all in your freezer. Second point, and this one has two subparts to it, is that while cullings can be devastating to a civilization, A, this wouldn't be a full culling, as again, most of the Wraith are still in hibernation, and B, at some point technologically, it becomes easier for a civilization to bounce back from disasters. A medieval civilization would take far longer to recover from a culling than a 1940s one, since there are more educated people left behind who could help rebuild. We kind of see this with the Hoffins, a race of humans with roughly 1918's level of tech who have been working tirelessly after each culling to develop a drug that would make them immune to Wraith feeding. Having these knowledge bunkers, they're meant to hold the wisdom of their forefathers that have helped them bounce back after each culling. Now, we do have a bit of an issue here because we don't get a good sense of their timeline. We were told they've been doing this for generations, but the only date given was 150 years ago when they had their first viable prototype of the drug, and it's unclear if they meant that's when they first had the idea, or for how long they've been creating their little knowledge bunkers. However, I think my point still stands because something like this could really only work with a decently advanced technological civilization, where most of them know how to read. Not to mention the Satedans' warrior culture would mean they would have a desire for revenge if enough of them were left to rebuild. Third and final point is that the destruction of Sateda was not only about Sateda itself. The people had challenged the Wraith, and an example had to be made. Cullings, as sad as this sounds, are pretty normal in the Pegasus galaxy. While culling Sateda would have been devastating for the planet, well, everyone gets culled, so what's the big deal? However, the near annihilation of its people sends a clear message. Accept your role as cattle and don't fight back. Accept that some of you will die, or all of you will die. And Todd kind of confirms this in the book Homecoming. He comments that the destruction of Mineria by the Wraith Queen Death was not a practical decision. Ronon points out that the Wraith did the same thing to Sateda. Todd explains that, and confirms what I said earlier, that the Wraith were still hibernating and not so hungry they couldn't afford to make an example of the planet, though they did still call the planet well and deeply. But yeah, I know a lot of people don't like to count the books as canon, but that does confirm that Sateda was destroyed to set an example and take out a potential threat. But what do you all think? Can you think of any other reasons why the Satedans might have been targeted? And if the Satedans had survived, do you think they could have one day challenged the Wraith, similar to how Earth did with the Goa'uld? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. Leave a like and subscribe. Follow me on my social medias. And remember...
300.
Drink, Ronan, and rejoice you're not alone, huh?